Hello, and this is Rosemary Jane. We are meeting today to look at interactive Schoology updates. So we're not just going to be posting updates that have information or posting an announcement. We're going to look at how to make them interactive. And we're also going to look at a little trick for adding a banner image. So what am I talking about when I say interactive updates? Well, let's take a look at these two examples right here. When I first log into Schoology, and I will just remind you that I recommend you're using the Chrome browser. Signed in sync is on, and you can access all your district apps through Clever. I'm going to jump straight to the content here. The updates are what appear first for you. So as you can see, for the most part, these are not interactive. They are information giving. So very often people will post an update and they're posting a question, or if it's coming from one of your principals, there's some information for you. These are updates. What am I talking about when I say interactive updates? Well, this one right here is a little bit more interactive. This is from one of our preschool teachers in the district. Her name is Amy, and she's still using her Schoology platform to communicate with families and students at home. She's added an image to her update, and as well as a link out to something else. So this is automatically a slightly more interactive update. Now it's appealing because it has visuals. I'll show you how to do that today. And it's got a link to go do something else. It's still not exactly as interactive as what we were going to look at today. This also is another example of an interactive update where there is an attachment there. Again, it's more just telling them to do something, so we're not getting anything in return. I'm going to show you how to link an update to a discussion and other materials within Schoology to get more interaction. All right, so these are some examples of updates as well. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. Emily Campbell with our Office of Curriculum and Instruction, she does post an interactive update here, and she does show a best practice. She's actually got an embedded Google Doc that you can just view right there in the update. And then up here above it, the click here to pop it out in another tab just allows the user to see it in a larger tab. In a previous one she did, she actually said, click here to go to a discussion. So we're going to look at that example at the Office of Curriculum and Instruction shortly. So, but for the rest of these, we're going to go to one of my sample courses to show you what I'm referring to. All right. So in my practice course, I have a folder. And in this folder, I have created a discussion, weekly class discussion. Now that is content that is in the materials. And if I click on it, then I can read the information. Now I did this last week as part of a primary example, but I've got a sample discussion prompt. I can go to my updates here, and I can link back to that. Oh, I hear somebody trying to get in the meeting. Let me admit. All right. So if I go to my updates, what I can do is I can add visuals to my updates, like Amy did. So I've added visuals there. And I can tell users to go to a specific discussion. I think that actually, I'm sorry, I think that's my other course. I think it's here. All right, here we go. So, so this is an update that has a visual. It's a clickable image, and then it also has a link to it in case they cannot view the image. All right, we're going to get into how to building those in just a moment. Okay. Just want to remind you that in the meeting, if you have a question while I'm presenting, you can just click right here on the chat, and you can post your questions here. I should get a little ding letting me know. And so there's not a separate agenda today. So we are just posting updates. So the update or the agenda is updates. So this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're making interactive updates. So here we go. In our materials, you may have already been in one of my sessions where I talked to you about posting or creating a folder that is called Updates Not Published. And I'm going to walk through how to do that real quick. So in any of your courses, I recommend you all have a folder for your updates that are not published. You could even just call it teacher folder and leave it unpublished. But you'll notice the folder setting is unpublished, and I've color coded it white. I'm going to show you how to create that here. So I would add materials and add a folder. And then I'm going to name it, I could name this one for teacher materials not published. I always put the term not published on my folders, sort of for two reasons. One, it does prompt me myself just to make sure I don't publish it, but it's also just, it helps organize for me. Now, I like to choose the color white for this because I almost feel like it kind of washes it out. Like it's not published. The folder itself is kind of grayed out to the teacher's view. So I select a white folder when I make an unpublished folder. So I'm calling this one teacher materials. And I'll get into a little bit of why. My other one is just called updates not published, but I'll name this one teacher materials not published. And again, I select white. You can select whatever you like. Some people have done black for their teacher materials. All right, so I've got my white folder, but then at the bottom of it, I do need to go down here to availability, and I need to select unpublished. So I'm creating a folder, and that folder is not going to be visible to any of my students. Just so you're aware, your materials, when you create them new, do drop to the bottom, because this is one of my sample courses that I demonstrate a lot of things in. I've got a lot of content in here. If it drops to the bottom and you want it at the top, you can just click on that title. Excuse me. Click and hold the title, and you can drag it up to the top. Now, because I have a lot of materials in this sample course that I really need to delete sometime, you would just drag it up. Now, some teachers prefer to leave their administrative folder at the bottom. That's fine. It doesn't really matter where you leave it. Just so you're aware, I make it white so it kind of looks washed out. And this is how it does appear for the teacher when it's unpublished. It's kind of grayed out. Your students will not see it. All right, inside of that folder is where you need to create page, because pages are how you can copy and post over to your updates, your content. So when I first create my folder, there's nothing in it. I'm going to add materials, and what you're going to add is a page. So I will list that in the chat. Step one is create a folder, unpublished. Whatever you name it is fine. 2, add a page in the folder. For those of you who like to keep notes, that's what we've done right now. We're going to add that page. All right, this page title, I'm going to call it My Interactive Updates. Name it whatever you want. The name doesn't really matter. It's just a placeholder for you because it's unpublished. And so you would start building your content here. So what I actually do, I don't even type my updates directly into the update field in Schoology. And bear with me one second as I close out some of these extra tabs. Actually, all of these tabs might be why I was having trouble earlier. That should help. Okay. All right. Name it whatever you want. And then let me duplicate this real quick. Whoops, not reload. Okay, here we go. All right. So many of you are familiar with Schoology updates, especially if you do them from your phone. You can just type right into your updates. So my message could go here. I could start typing, but I like to start my message over here in this space. So I do a couple of things on my unpublished updates. On my page, I don't start typing in the first space because I'm going to kind of have this go as a scrolling document. Over time, it'll build and I'll have lots of updates, and I'll show you some real examples of my interactive updates in a moment. So I leave some blank space, and then I start with my message to students or families. Then I enhance the message with font changes. And I add interactive images. And so I'll just go with that. And I'm going to put also, we're going to link to Schoology content. So I'm going to do those 4 things right here in this page as a sample. So instead of message to students and families, imagine you wrote, dear students and families, I'm having a great week. I hope you are too. Whatever your engaging message is. Okay, I write my message right here, and I'm going to enhance it with font changes, such as maybe I'm going to change the color of the font. I might want to change the size of the font. Excuse me, sorry. I might want to change the size of my font, especially if I have younger students. Whoops. I might want to change it to a larger font. I might even want to organize my ideas with headings. Oops, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I double did that. Oh, it's early. It's actually not that early. Okay, so I can go into headings, subheadings. These are enhancing font types. So you get the idea. I can change the color. I can italicize some things. If I wanted to, I could even have a bulleted list. You'll notice after you hit enter on a heading, it goes back to paragraph. So then maybe I'm going to say, step 1, step 2, step 3. Obviously, this is not a good update, but I'm just giving you an example of the content. So I'd write it all in here on this page. Okay, if I'm not quite done yet, but I've got to stop working, just remember you want to actually hit create or save changes. Okay, and what you'll see is in your folder, you've got this update not published. Let me go back into the editing mode now. And I'm still only on step 2. I've just added a page in the folder. Step 3, I'm on adding, add content to the page. And I'm going to just note this will be your message or your update message. All right. So I'm back in here. I've hit edit. And so now I want to add an interactive image. So I'm going to just go into my update. I don't need all these blank spaces at the top, but I at least need to have 1 or 2 blank spaces at the top. I'll show you why shortly. All right, I'm going to add an interactive image. So I'm going to put an image in. Now, that is through the add content button. If you need a quick refresher on adding images that are clickable, I'm going to share a YouTube video I have on that. I'll just open that playlist. All right. I have a playlist of Schoology tidbits, and I have updates that pop is one of my videos. It's 5 minutes. I'm going into a little bit more detail, obviously, in this one. Whoops. So I've got a 5-minute video that kind of takes you to where we're at right now. Obviously not in this amount of detail. Okay, you can watch that video later. I just wanted to post that there. So I want to add an interactive image. So I'm going in my page across the top to insert content, and I'm going to grab an image. Now I'm attaching a file from my computer. If you've been in any of my sessions before, I always recommend you have a folder saved to your desktop. I call mine Snips for Schoology. I use my snipping tool all the time. Obviously, you'd want it connected to some sort of content that you're using. For right now, I will just make it just any image that I have. So I'll do the student reading. Okay. Now, the image itself is not interactive. This student reading is not interactive. So all I did was add an image and I'm resizing it. This is not interactive yet. To make it interactive, I at least have to link it out to other content or internally. So what I'm going to do is link it to that update, or sorry, to that discussion board. So this helps if I'm in the right course. All right, I'll go to this, this discussion board. This is not the discussion board I wanted to go to. Sorry. Here we go. I will go to this discussion board. So what I've done is I'm working in two different tabs. I've got a sample discussion here. Now, what I do want to point out is that your discussions in Schoology, all of your materials, they have a unique URL. So let me expand this. Oops. I don't know why it's not letting me expand this, but it's not. Huh. Okay, it's not letting me expand it. That's interesting. Well, normally I'd be able to show you. I think if I drag my cursor over, I can. Yep. So this item has its own unique URL. I can copy this entire link address. And so I just copy it. You can hit Control Copy as well, or Control C. And you'll notice that when I go back into the main landing page of the course, when I get outside of that, that URL changed. That word discussion isn't there and that code isn't there. So I want to go and make this image interactive. I want it to take me to that discussion. So I'm going to click on the image and click link and click paste. So all I did was copy and paste the link to that image. Now, it's really important that when you add an interactive image, and for that, I'm going to highlight that text. When you add an interactive image, that's a linked image that if you need to consider the user and what device they're using. So you always want to have a message that says something like, if image is not visible, or sometimes I just put a comment like image not working or don't see the image. If image is not visible, click the link below. Keep that in the back of your mind. So back here on this step now, I'm adding content to the page. Now I'm enhancing, whoops, I'll take that as a step 4. Okay, so we enhance the content with clickable images linked to other resources. In this case, it's a Schoology discussion. So when they click on this, it's going to take them to that Schoology discussion. But I did add this, if image is not visible, click the link below. Okay, now that's my Schoology content. So here we go. Oh, and here's the link, sorry. Link to Schoology content. I do like to paste my links right here. Whoops. Let me cancel that. Link to Schoology content. I like to save the link in here. Remember, this is my unpublished area still. Here's my link. Paste. There it goes. That's just that discussion. So all I did was copy and paste that link again. All right. So now I have got a bunch of content that is interactive added. I did not create this in a way. I'm going to show you real examples in a moment. I did it sort of step by step. I don't need this link right here just yet, but I'm going to grab all the rest of my content. And I'm just going to copy it. Now, before I leave this page, I'm going to hit Save Changes. Because remember, Schoology is not Google. It's not auto-saving. You have to save. So also, too, one other little tip that I like to do. I like to click on this button at the bottom. Display on a new page is the default. I click it to display inline. I'll show you why I do that. Because now when I'm in my teacher's materials folder, I don't have to open it. It's just sitting there. So if I needed to copy it for some reason, I can just copy it straight from here. I don't have to click, so I'm reducing my number of clicks. Keep that inline trick in mind for your students later too. All right, so now I'm back on my updates page. Now, instead of typing my message here, all I do is paste my message here that I wrote on that update and hit post. And I want to show you what this does for my students. Let me make sure I'm in the course that has one of these kiddos in there. Yep, okay. So let's look at this from a student perspective. When they log in, they're going to see my update as I wrote it. So with the fancy font, I italicized it. I gave them a step or a numbered list. This image, when they click it, will take them straight into the discussion. So they're getting straight to work on something. So they did not have to go in to Schoology and click on courses and then click on my course and then click on the folder with the content in it. No, all they had to do was see their image or see their update and click it, and they're getting straight to work. Let me show you a few examples of ways that I do this as an administrator. I have a folder called Updates Not Published. And remember that blank space I told you about? I keep all of my updates sort of as like, I don't know, a record or so. I don't really know how to say what I'm saying. But I have them all here so that if I want to repeat one of them, if it's going to be very similar content, I've got that saved there. It's all unpublished. And I mean, you can see I go way back. This is when we were still in face-to-face school. And I've got all of these updates. So what I can do, like let's say that I want to post this update again, but I'm going to change the content. All I do is copy it, copy, and then I can go into that page and click, whoop, I don't want to click move, click edit. And now remember that blank space I told you about at the top? Right here. I'm just going to click it a couple more times, give myself a couple more blank spaces. And then all I do is paste that right there again. And now I can start editing it for the next time. So I have a lot of people asking me, well, how did you get your update like that? Well, all I did was make it in a page and see this font here? I made that a 24 point font. I added this image here. I made this an image and it has a link on it. So it takes you out to that YouTube playlist. Okay, so if I want to use the same one, then I could just edit this one. So this one's pretty generic. I don't really have anything to change, but this isn't Schoology for primary. This one was on interactive Schoology updates. So I could just change the content and then copy. Now, whenever I make a change, just don't forget to click on Save Changes. Then I go back to my updates. And then I would just paste it right here. So I'm creating it on a page because I have a lot more options for what I can do with an update in a page than I can right here. So when I click Post, my students and their parents see this update. Now, I do want to show this from a parent and student perspective as well. So let's go to my parent account first. All right, I've got this pulled up. Now what you'll notice for a parent is it says you're viewing as your child, you are not in as your child. So if I have a link like this and I'm her parent, I can click it. And if it's external, it's just gonna take me straight to that link. So it works just fine for the parent. But let's take a look at the one where I linked to a Schoology discussion. Remember the one from the earlier example? If I'm in as a parent and I click it, I'm going to get this message. Now, Why do I get this message? Well, because I'm only viewing as my child. I'm not in as my child, so I can't go to that. So keep that in mind whenever you link to content. What I like to do is name my link for my students. So let's make this interactive message better now for parents. So I'm going to go back into that first interactive update that I made. Ignore my disorganization here. Oh, you know what? I didn't build it in this course. Sorry. I built it in, oh, I think I built it in this course. I'm not even sure. No. I'm just going to go to my actual example. Sorry. So this is my example. Updates not published. I'll edit this one. Just going to start over with a new one. Do you see this screen not loading here? Just give it a moment to load, but it seems to be that if you click up here in this toolbar, it kind of wakes it up. It's just a little trick I found. Let me go to one of these. No, sorry. Bear with me one moment, please. I want to get this update back, and I want this one. Okay. So remember at the top, I've got my blank space. It's just so I can add more information at the top. Just leave one or two blank spaces. It's easier to edit because sometimes you can get hung up on these images. If this is your first thing, your cursor might jump around. So just give yourself some blank space as you're adding a new update. I'm just actually copying in the same old one. All right. Let's say that this link here, link to Schoology content, I will call this student link. So click the link below. Let me copy this now. I'm going to make this more user-friendly for our parents. Link. So I'm going to take that same link, but I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to call it student link. So I just needed to get that link. I'm going to paste it. Okay, student discussion board, link for students only. Now, the reason I named it that, I did add a valid URL. What's going on? Oh, looks like I didn't copy the beginning of that code. So hold on one second. Let me grab the right link. So it's always a good practice to check your links. All right. Copy my link, go back here. Apparently I didn't paste the whole link. There we go. All right, so this now, it's the same link, but I'm telling my users that it's for students only. That way they'll understand that that link is for students only. You'll probably want to introduce to your families that some links will work for students only. You'll also want your parents to know and understand that when they click that link, if they get that private access message, that just means their student has to be logged in. But from my home page, when I first log into Schoology, if I'm a student and I click on this, it's going to take me straight to my discussion board. If I'm a parent, I can see that it says student discussion board link for students only. So make sure you have something like that that sort of explains it. An interactive image is great, but if I'm a parent and I'm just going to get private access and I don't know what to do from there, Like right here, I'm kind of lost right away. So luckily, Schoology does have a return home button. It leaves me viewing as my child. So I would definitely have some explanation to your parents that that link's only going to work for them. But like the other teacher example that I showed, preschool teacher, she was just linking out to like PBS and things like that. In this example, I'm just linking out to YouTube. So those are all going to work for parents, even if they're logged in. So for your students, the great thing is they get straight to work with, they get straight to interacting with the content. For parents, they get to see the information, the update. Just keep in mind, if you're linking into Schoology content, you'll want some sort of direction for them for how to get to that. So let me hop back over here. Okay. At this point, I'd like to open it up for questions. This is really the gist of it. We create, you don't even have to actually make a folder. You could just make an unpublished page, but I always recommend that we organize our content in Schoology. So I make an unpublished folder and then I add a page in the folder. Everything you put in an unpublished folder stays unpublished. And then all you're doing is adding content to the page for your updated message and enhancing the content with clickable images or other links to Schoology materials. Step 5 is just to copy, paste that content to your updates. I want to make sure we don't have questions there. I have one other example I'd like to show for the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. I mentioned I was going to show that earlier. What you'll notice is that as soon as you log into that course, that update is sitting right here and it is interactive. I can click the link and interact with it. Or if it had a discussion board, I could interact with that. So that's called making it an announcement. What I'm going to do is take one of mine and show you how to do that. Okay. Go to one that has a nice little grid on it, just so it looks better. I'll take this one. So right here, I'll go to this one. I'm going to copy this update right out of my updates to copy page. And then I'm going to paste this update. It's all pasting over. So now what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to click this little button here, click the bell, and click post. And what you'll notice is even when, so if I click on this, if I'm in as a student, I've got this view. There's my tiles I can click on. I've got my font types here. It's nice. It's visually appealing. I've got content I can interact with. Okay. Instead of COVID, just imagine that it's taking me to that discussion board. But if I click on the course itself, it's also pinned to the top of my materials. So that update is pinned with all the clickable images. I have a sample I can show you of a teacher how they make that update part of their materials, but that's kind of going above and beyond what the goal of the session was. This session was just interactive updates. I just wanted to show that part. I still don't have any other questions, but we have 15 minutes left. Does no one have questions about the updates? Okay, well, if there are not questions, I can go into the example that I just referred to. One moment. All right, this is one of our Microsoft Office teachers, and he's given me permission to share his example. But he used an update pinned as an announcement. We call it pinned. All he did, excuse me. I'm sorry, one second. Okay. What he did in his update when he posted it here, he did just click on that little, he had the update and he just clicked on announcement, which is this button here. Let me go into this. The one I just showed you, clicked on that bell, that pins it as an announcement. But then what it does is make that update sort of like a menu at the top of his materials for his course. So every week this could change. Now his is specific to being a Microsoft Office teacher, but each one of these pictures takes the student to another place. So it sort of stays there as a placeholder, right? But it also posts as an update. So if I wanted to use that, let's just say, I'm going to grab this. And go into my course updates. So again, he just created it in an unpublished page, which his is actually in a sandbox, so it didn't say unpublished. But I'm just copying and pasting it in here. Now, I will note that any of those picture images may not work. I would add those links below if you know that those links are for parents or somebody who might be using a cell phone. Images don't always show up in updates, or I would link it somewhere in my materials. But right here, I can click on this little bell and click post. And now this update becomes that header in my materials. So let's take a look at it from that parent perspective again. So I get the update. Just note that it does add a scroll bar if the update is wider than the view area. If I go in as a parent, okay, I can see this. This is actually, I haven't looked at this as a parent. It overlapped it, so that's pretty interesting. But if I click on some of these links, I would test them all to make sure that those links do work for others. It doesn't look like any of these link to Schoology content, but if they did, you would just want to make sure you put a note on there that they're for students. But that's how that looks for the parent. And then I could go in as a student, but I'm not getting a lot of questions. You guys are a quiet group today, so I'm not going to show every single possibility. All right. Well, I'm not opposed to stopping early. I will say this is the very first time I will ever stop early, but I don't have any questions from the group. Our goal was to look at interactive Schoology updates, and we certainly did that. The main way that we did an interactive Schoology update was actually by not building in the update section of your course at all. So going into any one of your courses, you can click on updates and you can start working right away. There's no reason you can't just go ahead and post a quick message. You can even add a link for that message. Take them directly to Schoology content. One of the things I like the most about using these is that it cuts navigation steps for your students. So let's say you have a discussion board or a bell ringer sort of activity that you want them to start the day in. If you just link directly to that, they can read it, go straight to the activity, and get straight to work. They did not have to go up and navigate to the courses. But it could be, oops, wrong tab. It could be that you want them to just watch a video or do something outside of the platform. Well, then you could just link them directly to that in your update. So the interactive piece, if we give them a discussion board or a quiz or something that they click on that they're doing right away, then you're getting some more activity, like a participation in a discussion board. You can set your discussion boards to have all kinds of rules, like they have to post before viewing others, or you can have a criteria set that, they should respond to one or two others before they move on. There's so many different things you can add as far as enhancements, requirements, but I'm not going to go into every example. You can go as far with this as you want. But I would just challenge you to try it out, add an unpublished folder to your course materials, and in there, add a page. In that page, go ahead and add content, make it enhanced. I listed those steps for you here in the chat. Enhance your content with clickable images, link to other resources. I will say the font types I showed you are a great way to enhance as well. And then just copy and paste that into your updates. So that's what I have for you today. I will drop your contact hours and feedback form. Oh, I heard something. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm just getting your link to your contact hours and feedback form. I should bookmark this. All right, here we go. Kathy, let me see. Yeah, that's why I put them right in here, and these will be on the video. It really is just these 5 steps. And truly, Kathy, you don't actually have to create a folder. You could just create a page unpublished. I recommend you organize it, but once you create it once, you can use that folder over and over again. Let me go back into here. So you've only got to make that folder once, and then you only have to make one page. So, but you do have to build on a page. So really, this is your most important step, is making an unpublished page, because you'll be building off, or you'll be creating your content in here, and then you just go in and copy your content to your Schoology updates. So the rest of it were suggested steps. I mean, if you want them to be interactive, yes, your content should have clickable images and links. But Kathy, that 5-minute video there kind of runs over everything I just shared, the updates that pop. It's a little more focused on the visual side than getting into content. I showed you how to link to Schoology content, and I also showed you from a student and parent perspective. But this is a very quick video that shows you those 5 steps really quickly. So the many steps, it's really 5 critical steps, really just 4 if you don't make a folder. But you make a folder, you add a page to that folder that's unpublished, then you start building any content you want. So you can make it as simple as you want, from simple font and just adding links to clickable images and add those links. Again, that's all in that 5-minute video. And then the actual only step that sort of changes your Schoology processes is, instead of writing directly into your updates, you're going to first write it into this page and then copy and then paste it into your updates. So it's not that there are a lot of steps, they're just not, they're not the ones Schoology typically has listed. It's, I learned it in a session at Schoology Next called Hacking Your Stream. And it was really about how, the updates field in Schoology is not built to be all that robust. If you look at it, there is a text editing bar, but it's limited. You can't pick colors, you can't pick font types, and you can only go up to 14 here, where you can go up to 24, I believe it is, in the page. But you definitely, like in insert content, there is no option for pictures. So you have to build that in a page. So I know maybe it feels like a lot of information, but it's not really that many steps. And I do cover it in that 5-minute video. So if you need a refresher, I'd watch the 5-minute video. You're welcome. I am just going to walk you through real quick your contact hours and feedback form. Just put your information. If you want to earn contact hours, you have to put in your employee ID. Still don't know who made this required. You're not required to get contact hours. So if you don't want them, just give it an NA, since it's forcing you to write something there. But if you do want contact hours, you must put in your employee ID number. And that is not your social security number. That's the number at the top of your pay stub. Your role, etc. When you look at what topics did we covered Schoology. And we only looked at Schoology today. Indicate your school or schools that you work at. Today, if you can believe it, it is already June the 30th, right? Gosh, the 30th of June. And this was a 10 a.m. session. If you're here with me live, you joined a virtual PD session video conference. So you click that. If you're watching this later on my YouTube channel, you viewed a recorded virtual PD session. This was a 30-minute to 1 hour session. And my name is Rosemary Jane. You'll rate the training. I do want to apologize for the schedule. We didn't start until about 10 minutes after. For the first 5 minutes or so, nobody was in. So I was monitoring it, but nobody was in. But I do apologize. We started a little late. You can add any additional questions or comments you have, just so you're aware. Links to our calendar of trainings available to you are right there, as well as our Schoology course. And when I say our, it's Learning Technologies team, myself, Ashley Badgett, Kimberly McLean, and Megan Safka-Preslin. That is the Learning Technologies team, so that's our course. If you are having technical difficulties, you can always email our ITM help. And I always do like to recommend that you click the box that says send me a copy of my responses. We are, I believe, over 7,000 now, so we're not able to answer individual questions about your form. So just have a copy sent to yourself. So that's it. That's all I have today. I'm going to stop the recording.